Welcome back guys to another video, and today we're going to talk about why does Bitcoin mempool appears to be empty. Because if you take a look in the last few weeks, you can see that even 1 Satoshi per byte transactions are getting processed in about 1 or 2 hours, and some people are still paying up to 10 or 20 or even up to 100 Satoshis per byte for their transactions to be processed in 10 or 20 minutes, but you don't really have to do that. Just to be on the safe side, you can include up to 5 satoshis per byte for a transaction, and it should be done in about 1 hour or a little bit less than that. And over here in the January and December of 2017 and 18, you can see that for a transaction to be completed in 10 or 20 minutes, you really need to put about 1000 satoshis per byte. That was really high, and that was the biggest amount that we have ever seen in the Bitcoin's history. And to be processed in about 2 or 3 days, you needed to use 200 satoshis per byte, which is actually 200 times more than you have to pay right now, which was just amazingly, insanely high. And some people thought that 50 to 100 satoshis per byte will be enough, and they ended up waiting for almost 2 months for the transaction to be completed. And that's the period in time when people really lost hope in Bitcoin, because they thought the Bitcoin will never get cheap again, that you will still have to pay $10 or $20 per transaction even years to come. And that was just the case of Bitcoin Cash attacking the Bitcoin and spamming the mempool with fake transactions that they transacted from one of their accounts to another account, and they just ended up paying the fee to promote the Bitcoin Cash as the faster and more reliable coin. And a lot of the people don't know how they can actually accelerate the Bitcoin transactions. It's not really simple, but if you end up making a mistake and sending your Bitcoins with 5 or 10 satoshis per byte, when the average amount you have to pay is actually more than 100 to 200 satoshis per byte, you can fix that problem, and I'm gonna show it in one of the next videos. But a lot of people don't know about that, and they just ended up waiting for a few months. And probably some of them had really important transactions to be done, because if, for example, you have your rent money coming in and you really need it in few days and you end up waiting for 2 months, that can be catastrophic for you and your family. So let's take a look at Bitcoin average transaction fee in dollars instead of satoshis per byte. You can see that in the last 3 to 4 months, the peak was in December, and that correlates with the peak that you had to pay in December for satoshis per byte. And you can see that the highest we ever had to pay was in these 2 days right here, and the transaction fee was $54 and $55 per transaction, and that was the average transaction fee. Some people ended up paying $100 or $200 if they really needed their transaction to be done in the next block in the next 10 minutes. But it has been declining steadily from then, and you can see that yesterday you had to pay only $2 per transaction fee, or $2.50 2 days ago, which is 25 times less than you had to pay 2 months ago. And this looks a lot more reasonable, because $2 is something that I'm willing to pay, and it is really reasonable amount. And even up to like $5 or $6 is something that I would do, but paying $50 or $100 per transaction that is maybe only $20 or $30 is just insane, and nobody should really do that, because the amount you have to pay in transaction fee is almost the same, not depending on the amount of money or the bitcoins you are sending. And even though the transaction fee is now at almost all-time low in the last few months, you still don't have to pay those $2. You can get your transaction done with 50 or with 30 cents, or just to be sure, you can pay $1 and your transaction will be done really fast. But that $2 average transaction fee means that some people are willing to pay even still up to $100, and a lot of the other people are getting the same transaction done almost at the same speed with only 20 or 30 cents. And the interesting thing that you can see, this is the amount of Bitcoin transactions per day. And people think that Bitcoin mempool is empty right now just because the number of transactions has gone really down. But that is actually not the case, because as you can see that yesterday we had 205,000 transactions, and as we have seen before, average transaction fee is $2 per transaction. So that would mean that your average transaction fee should go up $1 per every 100,000 transactions. And the peak that we had was 500,000 transactions right here. this day, and that would mean that average transaction fee for that day would need to be $5 to be exact, as we are seeing right now. And if we go back once more, you can see that at that time you had to pay $54 instead of $5 when the amount of transactions was at 500,000. And that doesn't actually make a lot of sense to many people. And how can we really explain that right now we are having 200,000 transactions and the average transaction fee is $2 instead of $20 as it would have been 2 months ago? Well, the main reason for that is batching and SegWit adoption. And we can see those two going up in percentages each single day for the last few months, and that is the main reason why the transaction fees are down. The biggest player among them is Coinbase, that implemented SegWit and batching, and they saved a lot of money on transaction fees, but some of the miners are suffering right now because less money for transaction fees means less profits for the biggest Bitcoin miners that can mine blocks on their own. And what does batching actually means? It's pretty simple, and it means that you can implement a lot more transactions into the one transaction ID. Because if you want to send, let's say, 1 Bitcoin, but you want to split it among 100 or 200 people, you would have to send 100 or 200 transactions if there wouldn't be for no batching. And batching allows you to send one transaction in one transaction ID, and you can separate that 1 Bitcoin to 200 people and just take the place in the mempool for the amount that one transaction would take. And that saves a lot of money on the transaction fees, and that's why the transaction fees are down so much. And the SegWit is just the way that you can reduce the transaction fees, and you can put bigger transactions and they would take less amount of space on the mempool. And that, I don't know why that wasn't really implemented before. Maybe some of those big companies had deals with biggest Bitcoin miners, so they would make more money with mining Bitcoin directly, and that might be the case, or it might not. Maybe it just took them a really long time to do it, but it should have been done half a year ago, and we would never see so big transaction fees. So thank you guys for watching again, I really appreciate it, and see you soon in another video. Bye.